Hi. Happy Sunday, everybody. Happy Sunday. I'm doing great. How are you? All plugged up here because you guys know. I have to make sure all my little cords are not mixed up. Really just my live, guys, because I decided not to charge my laptop today. We're going to be talking about relationships today. Everybody always asks me to, and I never do it. So today we're going to be talking about relationships in the Matrix, soulmates, twin flames. It's everybody's favorite topic, which is why I avoid it most of the time. I'm like, focus on yourselves first. But we are going to discuss it today. Hold on one second, guys. Grand Rising, happy Sunday. All right, let's get started on YouTube. Happy Sunday. We are live on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. We're going to hope the connection stays pure today. Maybe because I'm not going to drag you guys through the deep matrix decodes, and we're going to be focusing on relationships today. So hopefully they won't block it. Like, oh, she's just talking about you guys finding love. So we won't mess with her live today. I do think that relationships are very pertinent to discuss in the Matrix. It's just how we approach them. When I first started on YouTube, like posting regularly, I did an episode after I was inspired by this Black Mirror episode called Hang the DJ. And in Hang the DJ, it was this futuristic type of setting where people would be given this kind of like clock and they would partner for relationships. Now, there was a timing on the relationship. So they would see if it worked out, if they were a good match. If not, when the timing was out, they would separate. And to me, that was the perfect example of speaking about what twin flames, what souls, and what partnership looks like in the Matrix when we're talking about what does it look like to have another half? What does it mean to be in union with someone? This to me is not subject based on someone being a man or a woman, masculine or feminine. It's dependent on your soul codes. What are you meant to do in this life together? What have you completed in another life? What do you see yourself repeating? And so the episode was called Hang the DJ. And for the longest, I could not figure out, like, why do they say DJ? Like, there's nothing about, I mean, they did meet through music towards the end, but I couldn't find a connection until I started connecting esoteric language with it. Now, when I heard DJ, if you see the cover art for the actual show, there's a picture of both of the main characters in bed, but they're hanging upside down. And I realized, oh, maybe the DJ is like the Jed pillar. Now, if you're not familiar with the Jed pillar, it is the backbone of Osiris. So when we're talking about his backbone, we're talking about where the frequency or sexual energy is raised from the base of the spine, the root, to the crown chakra, which happens with divine union. Now, this happens within the self because we are creators. However, when two people are in union with one another, raising their frequency together makes a creative force. So when they were talking about Hang the DJ, and at the end they get to choose whether they are going to repeat what the simulation keeps dishing out to them, or will they choose each other regardless of all the parallels that tell them who would be perfect for them or what would actually work. Versus seeing this system where they were pairing people together, I found it really interesting that at the end they chose to rebel, but they were not the first rebellion. They were like one of 999 different rebellions, as if it was always planned that way. But it's the same story of the Matrix, that is choice and illusion. So when I first saw the episode and I was looking at it, I was like, oh, well, this is just about love and destiny. But I think it's a lot more than that, because love requires soul work. Hi, guys. Thank you so much. It was on the show Black Mirror, and the episode is called Hang the DJ. It was a really beautiful episode, I think, for such a dark show about, fantasy and cyberpunk type of realities. But it taught me something much greater about relationships and who we are to one another. I, on my page, have shown different incarnations of people amongst different lives and how they show up to one another. And this can happen in many relationships. It's not necessarily just a love relationship. This can be platonic. This can be a mother and child who've maybe reincarnated as husband and wife, or maybe someone who came back as a grandmother, or maybe even an elder versus being a baby in a previous life. And so you start to notice these soul connections, because people often say, oh, I feel like I've been here with this person before, or why does this keep repeating? And it's the same that I teach you all about singular patterns in your everyday life. We're on recurring loops. And every time we choose the same loop, it's not only a form of epigenetic memory, because this is our pattern recognition system based on what we receive from our parents, but also what is surrounding us in everyday life. So I actually started to really examine my own life and the patterns that I saw. And I would bring in everything from like notable figures in history to things I saw my mother do or my father do. The connection is breaking up again, guys. Oh no. We're just talking about relationships. Maybe they don't want y'all in relationships either. That's on TikTok. Instagram, we're still good right now. If it does go wrong, I have backup. Don't worry. If something goes wrong here on TikTok side on the computer, then we'll go into the phone. If I have enough confirmation that nothing is going right now. But when it comes into union with yourself, you have to ask yourself, what patterns am I repeating? What am I seeing happen over and over again? What is being cast and projected to me about divine unionship? And like, what does that look like? So I think it's first about knowing yourself, knowing the dream. And you are the dream, essentially. You are walking through the dream of everyday life, manifesting, which the word manifesting is not just about achieving a desired outcome. It is about coming into union with oneself. It is a manifesto or a declaration of where you see yourself, because you have already seen yourself across multiple lifetimes before. But now that you're coming back in turn with the self, this is when that union is seeking its opposite source. I shared a post some time ago on TikTok about Shiva and Shakti. And when I learned from that version of what it meant to have union and partnership with the self, I stopped looking at it as two separate people and two versions of the conscious force of awareness, because one is awake, it's vibrant, and it's moving, and the other one is very still. Both are needed to come together to create that union, just as you need a spiritual energy and a physical energy to create this charge that we call human life. So when I first heard that story about, who was waiting to rise into union with the other, it made me think of all the times I heard about runners and chasers in relationships, like, who am I supposed to be with, or why isn't he calling me back? I just laugh because I've been through it. And I remember having that sense of waiting for the right person, or waiting for the world to catch up with who I was and reflect that in another person to me. But the true reflection that I was always avoiding was the one in the mirror. And so it's interesting, because I think even Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson is trending on TikTok right now. So when I'm like in alignment with a code, it's usually something that I see externally that's feeding into my subconscious. Now, in these relationships, When we have a masculine and feminine force, this is not again subject to being solely a man or solely a woman. We're talking about a spiritual force versus a more executing force. So, like, you know how in a relationship, one person has the idea and they're great at drawing up ideas, and the other person is great at executing, or maybe you're good at both, right? Maybe you're already in union with oneself. You're already good at executing your goals and what you want. But it's about more than that because we're not expected to carry every single thing alone in this life. Even as you look at your DNA, right? It's a spiraling staircase that has two pillars, and each rung connects to a different level of reality. In some levels they call that Jacob's ladder, when we're talking about our backbone and our spine and the pillars that uphold our life, our reality, civilization, as it is within our minds and as it is within the spiritual realm as well, not just the physical. And that evolution happens over time. The more you know yourself, you're not looking for yourself in another person. The more that you learn your patterns, the things about yourself you may have not noticed before, your likes, your dislikes, your challenges, your struggles, your things in your life that you just can't figure out why you can't keep moving past them, but then you're looking for something to kind of like come in and rearrange that for you. You have to know that you are the story first. And your story is only going to be reflected and mirrored back to you once you see who you are in this story. So if I use, the Matrix as a story, think about Neo and Trinity, right? What brought them together? I'll wait for see some answers. I want you guys to be interactive today. What do you think brought and drew Neo and Trinity together in the Matrix? And hi everybody on YouTube as well. I'm talking to both you guys. I have both windows up right now. What do you think brought Neo and Trinity together in the Matrix? If you guys don't know, I'll answer for you. I'll give you guys a few more seconds. Maybe some people are typing. If not, I'll go ahead and give you my interpretation of it. Well, don't think too hard about it. Think about it from a non-logical perspective. If you just think about the opening of the movie, Trinity is the first one that we were introduced to. She was hacking the IRS. Will. I like that. Shared understanding. Wait to see if we have a couple more answers. You guys are doing great. What brought Neo and Trinity together in the Matrix? Remember, the Trinity represents the three. So, just like you have the masculine and feminine forces together, someone already answered, they draw together divine will. That is that power, the cerebral spinal fluid. She was the one, the three into one, yes. And so Morpheus, who's the god of dreams, came together on both sides. He knew Trinity and he knew Neo. Now, the thing is, when I'm talking about these two forces, I'm not speaking about them like we're actually thinking of Carrie-Anne Moss and Keanu Reeves. We're thinking about the masculine and feminine coming together, like somebody said, to create will, mind, body, and soul. Absolutely. Similar interest, okay. And what was their interest? I want you to dig into that question a little bit. You said similar interest. What do you think their interest was overall? And don't say breaking the matrix. I want to see where your mind goes with that one, because I think that's an answer worth exploring too. Similar interest. When I think of what they represent, not just the Trinity, creating balance, yes. More like a divine assignment, yes. When we view it that way, I love that answer. When we look at it as a divine assignment, it kind of changes the output of why we believe we're together with another. And for some people, it's simply about desire. Desire also exists in that root chakra. It still comes from scarcity. You don't feel like you have enough, so you seek passion, you seek cravings from someone. You seek for them to fulfill something that you can't. But there's a difference between that and union. To experience more than what was shown in this world. Absolutely. And sometimes you need to have eyes in a different way. So who did Neo go to? Who did Trinity tell her? Who told her her future? What was going to happen? Remember who she went to? Who told her she was going to fall in love with the one? The oracle, correct. So let's not look at the oracle as a person, right? Let's look at the oracle as a set of eyes that is not necessarily fixed on potential outcomes, but just on the facts. So if we look at just the facts, and we're just looking at that solely, not like, oh, I like him because he's cute, I like her because she's pretty. She was hacking the IRS. Now, when we look at that from a logical, serious perspective, we're thinking about the financial database of the system. But when I heard IRS, I thought of iris, like the iris. She was hacking the iris. Now, what does this mean? Well, in Greek mythology, Iris was known as the goddess of the rainbow, the goddess of the full light frequency, a messenger between God and humans. And so when she was hacking it or decoding it, because that's another way we can look at that, she was opening up his eyes to the other world, opening his eyes up to divine potential. And so when Neo rises to that potential, when she rises to, or when he rises to that potential, what happens? You guys remember? Illusion. She was manipulating illusion. It was the feminine energy that planted the seed. Yes. I'm going to check on TikTok. Some people are saying it's glitching a bit. We'll pause for just a second. My connection is good, guys. I'm not on anything when it's solely this TikTok because I use the same Wi-Fi on my phone that I do on TikTok Live and YouTube. We're good. But I knew this might happen, so I got backup. Don't worry. I'm going to switch over real quick. It could be. It could be that the desktop version of TikTok is crap too. I also consider that before I say someone's secretly out to get me, you know? All right. Okay, guys. We'll wait for them to come in on TikTok. We're still going right now. But when I speak about Neo and Trinity, about them finding one another, the Oracle kind of knowing what was going to happen, but couldn't tell them what was going to happen, in my eyes, that's using your eyes, using your third eye specifically, to come into union with the self, because you are both the dream and the seeker. You are seeking yourself in this reality. You're not looking outside of yourself, you're looking within. Your dreams hold the keys and the codes to everything that you desire in this world, in this universe. And so your desire usually comes from something that may have been unfulfilled in a past life, something that you didn't tap into. And it doesn't mean your dream is also necessarily in a person, but the partnerships that we make throughout life definitely are here to show us something. They're here to exemplify either a shadow or a light aspect of ourselves, and bringing that into fruition definitely is eye opening. Yeah, it might have just been the desktop version, guys. I'm getting some feedback from the TikTok side, and they said the connection is better. I really think it's the TikTok desktop version. Maybe it doesn't sit well with Mac OS because I have a MacBook, but never fear. That's why I prepared today, because I knew something would happen with it. So, anyway, going back into this story, what I've learned from partnership, what I've learned with the union of humanity, because even when we talk about the creation of this world and what it is, the masculine and feminine have been split in a way, and split not just in thought, but also in values, in culture. And when I say culture, I'm not defining it by where someone grew up, but the values of partnership and union. Now, partnership looks different for a lot of people. I'm not saying solely it's meant for man and woman alone. I'm saying it is meant for the masculine and feminine forces to come together, which exist in all people. All people. I want to repeat that so everybody gets that those forces of the masculine and feminine exist in all people. So if you are someone who defines yourself as differently than solely a man, a woman, trans, cisgender, whatever that is, we're talking about something on a spiritual level, not external. Because the creative force is driven when there is union within the self, union in relationships, union all around in your life. And so think about when you are out of balance, When you're out of your balance, what does life look like for you? I'll wait for some answers. Someone said, I believe this is what Adam and Eve's story was all about, and telling you the deception has always been there. The Oracle was not telling Neo or Trinity anything that they did not know, because the three had to become one. The dream, the seeker, and the union all had to come together, because Trinity knew Morpheus, she knew the dream. Neo knew Morpheus, that was also the dream. But then when they came together, and there were several different iterations of them as well, especially in the final film, when Trinity is a mother named Tiffany. That completely changes the story here as well. And that story kind of more so emits Sophia. So the story is opposite from the first film to the fourth film. The first film is about Neo's awakening to being the one. By the last film, it's Trinity who has to awaken. Neo recognizes her, but she doesn't recognize herself. She's kind of gotten drawn into this other world by the analyst. And the way that I've always heard the story described, and from what I viewed myself, the analyst is a bit like the demiurge. They have facts and knowledge and information, but that was only enough to power the system, not enough to keep the union. And the way that it was observed still created this sense of separation. So think about the way that we view the demiurge now, the way that we view the masculine energy or the masculine force utilizing the feminine, but not in union with her, if that makes sense. And by her, again, we're not talking about a person, we're talking about the union. You want a relationship decode? We're going to talk about that towards the end, but guys, relationship decodes are now up. I am doing personal relationship codes for those of you who are single, but also those of you who are already in partnership and union, because it is important to analyze our codes within each other. It's because we're all here to awaken each other as well. This is not a final sentence to get you to say, I'm going to break up with you today, because I've seen on TikTok, there's something going on right now with a famous TikTok couple who got a divorce, and people with parasocial relationships are kind of looking at them differently. And I thought it was pertinent to speak about relationships today because of this. I myself have avoided talking about it for such a long time because, again, I want the focus to be the self, because this was something that I had to learn. If I am not my greatest love story, it wouldn't matter who I invest my time or energy into. If I don't understand that I was the force of love that came from my parents, and I'm the force of love that created my child with my child's father, or I'm the person who created my business. I put my dream of my business into willpower by executing it. This was me becoming in union with myself, because the dream says, oh, that only exists out there. It doesn't exist down here. Or it only exists when I see it viral on social media, not when I'm at home doing the hard work and the patience that it takes to build what I have. Or the days that I want to put it down because there's too much structure needed. There's too much diligence needed in order to understand how these things work. Yeah, someone said on YouTube, the problem is believing that there's a separation between the two, and there's not. What is the difference between your waking life and your dream life or your sleeping life? Do we even know the difference? Does life actually feel like a dream at this point? And if so, how do we start finding the dream? We come into union with the self. So I was kind of like low energy today, and I actually didn't feel like going live. And then I like turned some love songs on, and I asked myself out loud, what happened to R&B? Like real good R&B, and not the breakup songs, but like the true love songs. I feel like as a millennial, that was the last bit of love music that we really got. I can't tell you the last time I heard a really good love song. I literally have to go back and listen to some stuff I've not listened to since like 2010 to hear anything. Love is not dead, though. I don't believe that. I believe this structure, this false structure, the demiurge, wants people to believe that it's over. Because if it can keep on the separation, then the spiritual realm will be out of union with the physical. And both in the same are interacting together. But I personally do not feel like love is dead. And not because I'm a lover girl, because yes, I have a Venus in Cancer, so I do. But at the same time, I have also experienced heartbreak. And so in knowing that, and then looking at what's happening in the world right now, what's happening externally, it does have me viewing relationships. What is our relationship with our masculine structure in life and with our spiritual? Are we overly attached to one or the other? Do we hate one over the other, and why? How did that happen? And so when you look at the state of the world, the environment, you look at the ocean, you look at the sky and the earth, You look at the environments of the forest, of, our local forests, our oceans, all of that, our lakes. I wonder, do we observe this the same way we observe the people that we want to care about us in this lifetime, or the people that we want to give our love to? Because if we're not treating the world the same, if we're not treating our families the same, how can we really expect any of that if we're not treating ourselves the same as well? Exactly. I love that answer. Someone said, I know love exists because I am love. And I think that that's something that people are trying to remember right now. They're trying to remember the origin of love and what that is. Um, what if you're no contact with your family? I don't believe you have to speak to someone to love them or to find love in them again. I don't think that's necessary. Love exists without words. It is the driving force of humanity. It's why the matrix code is green. Green is the color of the heart chakra. It's the color of the earth. It's the same color of the thing they make everybody chase after, money. But at the same time, it is the color of the emerald tablets, right? Emerald is also the stone of the month of May, which is associated with the mother. And so when I think back to the oracle, she wore the colors green. Her kitchen was kind of gold colors. And it was there where Neo wanted to know if he was the one. It was probably also there where Trinity sought to know the story that she would fall in love with the one. Both of them were the one. They were one and one in union with one another. And so I would think, like, if you guys have ever seen like the Rider's Waite tarot card, for the high priestess, she sits in the middle with two pillars on the side of her. Those are the pillars of Yakin and Boaz. When I look at that, I look at the two masculine structures. So Trinity would be in the middle, right? Because she's going to drive the willpower forward. But then you have Neo on one side and Morpheus on the other, the one in the dream. They have to come together in order to birth the new world. And so, this world is not over with. We get so much news and so much trauma on a reel every day that we get out of sync with our own hearts. And we're out of sync with our hearts. We're out of sync with the cosmos. They never stop turning. They've never really left us. Ancestors have not left us. The original love our parents had for us. Those of you who feel like you were not loved by your parents, or maybe your parents did not know how to love, there's something outside of the physical reality, because love is not just a romantic concept. Even the word romance, Roman, we're not just solely talking about that. We're talking about something that is a balancing force in the equation of the universe, because it doesn't choose. It just is. It's at peace. It's at one with oneself. If you guys do want to book your own relationship readings, you can get a relationship decode for 111 today, since today is 111. I wanted to get in sync with that energy for today as well. Just saw a lady on TikTok talk about empathy and kindness being what saved and rebuilt humanity every time we fell. Sounds corny, but love truly seems that way. It is not corny at all. It's funny. Whenever we use the word corny, I'm like, what's interesting, because corns, corn is a maze. The word for corn is maze. And when we talk about maze, we're always looking for the center of the maze, which is ourself. It is union with ourself. I actually just finished watching Westworld a few months ago, and the man in black, who's like the villain in the show, or the antagonist, his whole plot twist is he wants to find the center of the maze, but he's told that it's not for him, because it's for those who are seeking to evolve. Going within oneself is where the evolution starts, because you go to the place for the very first time. When you were in your mother's womb, you were not thinking, oh, am I loved? That was not something that required words. You were somewhere where you were omnipresent. You were within your mother's womb, but you weren't sitting here with the same kind of thoughts that manifest in a material reality, and that completely changed the game. And so the idea is to come back into union, back into love with the self. Now, again, we do it through partnership and union at times, but you can't do it with another person until you see it in yourself. Someone said you were waiting for me to break down corn. I always thought that was funny, because especially in movies like about like what's the one, Interstellar, like the cornfield chase, which has a beautiful score written for the movie, but it always makes me think it's just about finding the center, finding the middle. The Wizard of Oz takes place in the Midwest, which has tons of cornfields. I know, because I grew up near one. So Finding the self is kind of making your way through the alleyways that we call the matrix, the different codes of reality, as trying to read our patterns. Who fits me best? What fits me best? Is this what I'm looking for? And that's when you start to realize the coding and patterns that follow us throughout life. Many people who are seeking something from someone else, like in a unionship, they feel like they're missing something. But when you're in balance with someone else, you're usually in balance with yourself too. So this means I don't seek from you because I need you to fulfill something for me. I'm at balance with you and you're at balance with me. And I have found those kinds of relationships everywhere, just not just romantic ones, but also ones within the self as well. Interstellar was a Nathan Crowley movie too. We were talking about Nathan Crowley and Discord and his connections to Wicked, Wicked's connections to the Emerald Tablet, which I can actually go into that a little bit too. So, with the Emerald Tablet specifically, think about Elphaba in the Wizard of Oz, or Wicked, I'm sorry, and reading the Grimoire and how she brings Fiyero back to life. Now, there's a lot of layered choices in that movie specifically, but I do believe that that was a play because we Jericho Rose decoded in Discord that Nathan Crowley is a descendant of Aleister Crowley, the English occultist, who did spend a lot of time studying into the Emerald Tablets, Egyptian texts, and things like that. They were always trying to manifest the Scarlet Woman. And the Scarlet Woman was the consort of chaos. So you had Babylon and you had chaos. And so the thing that brings something to life truly is love. And I mean like a true life and a true soul. When you have that, that is something someone can't take away. There's no code that can outdo love. There's nothing that can separate that kind of love. I do remember the movie Field of Dreams as well. So when I saw that and her read the Grimoire, and there's like this whole scene where the flying monkeys are around, they make it so dramatic, but you know, it's a musical, so what do you expect? But when she brought him to life specifically, she was taking something that was supposed to be dead and inanimate and brought it and gave it a soul again. And so the same thing I kind of see happening in not just the technology realm, but the loss of the soul happening when it comes to understanding relationships. When we get so much patterning and prediction happening in social media, the way they want people to view unionship. I keep making up a word. Unionship is not a word, but it's a word today because I said it was a word. um, I noticed that there is a fundamental separation between the way people once saw themselves, the way we danced together, the way that we laughed, the way that we sang. That has changed dramatically since the early 2010s. It has. And people craving for this nostalgia is simply craving for a world that was more simple, a world where you didn't need a full roster to tell someone, I connect with you, I see you. There's even a funny video going around on TikTok right now of a scene from Avatar Fire and Ash with Nateri talking to Jake and being chosen versus choosing. I believe when it comes to these partnerships, you choose each other, you choose one another. It's not a separation. It's not, oh, it's only me, it's only you. It is a balance. And when you see that balance within someone else, this is how you're able to grasp it more dearly, because it's not necessarily about our goal in this life is to get money. Maybe your goal in life is to build. Maybe your goal in life is to create family. Maybe it's to create something that outlives you. But no matter what you choose in life, love is something that is evolutionary. It never stops. It's something that a machine cannot learn. No matter how many words it can simulate, no matter how many poems it can come up with, machines cannot simulate love. It's that simple. It cannot give you a warm touch, though I'm sure it could simulate the experience. It cannot hold you. It cannot supplement milk as a mother does for her child. It cannot. It can say I love you, but doesn't mean it. And of course, meaning has to generate from the human evolution of knowing what it feels like to not be loved or not be seen. And so now, machines have kind of become the extension of what we believe love is. Oh, I don't have anybody to talk to, so I'm going to go text ChatGPT and tell it to love me. Or maybe not tell it to love me, but ask what I should do. What kind of man should I talk to? What kind of girl, what kind of being should I be with? It's an energy too. Someone said, yes, I get sad knowing I'll most likely never be able to slow dance with someone. That's not true. That's not true. Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't make me sad. I say I'm a lover girl. Seriously, don't. I was just thinking about slow dancing earlier, and how for granted it's taken just being in partnership with anyone. Dancing in general, I think, because that's a creative force. That's a sacral chakra moving and flowing without being condensed in time and space. And I enjoy watching dancers all over the world of all different kinds. But I've been seeing a few different kinds of dancers like on my Instagram, and I said we need to see more of this because if we even saw this from a creative perspective, you could think about this when it comes to any other kind of partnership as well. Today, we're not talking about ice in Minnesota. We're talking about union and partnership, y'all. Today is not a heavy decode day. We're not doing all the heavy, crazy things in life they're trying to program us with right now. In fact, we're thawing out the ice. We're not talking about ice and what it's doing, keeping people stuck in motion. We're not thinking in terms of cold mechanical. We're thinking in terms of warmth, the center of the earth, and bringing that back to life again. You know your true love will come, yes, and you are already your true love. Funny enough, that was something that took me years to figure out. I'm not waiting around for that person to come just as you are. We know that it's within us. When you emit love, you are love. That does not change. Libra risings. Libra risings are all about that balance as well. Growth. Yes, I agree. We do need more love songs. We need more musicians to come back. This is why they banned music at one time in life because they saw the connection that it was giving to people. This is why they probably push artists who are not giving the kind of frequency that would bring people together anymore. That's why, this whole era of boy bands went away after a while because of what was happening behind closed doors. It was using the same masculine and feminine forces to, in fact, split people versus bringing them together as well. So, think about the things that drive creativity, that drive love, that drive reproduction. And I don't mean reproduction as in making babies. I literally mean reproducing life from creative works, people who are painters, photographers, artists, people who are engineers, people who are mathematicians. It doesn't even matter what you do. When you are in love with what you do, you become that creative force in itself. You said that's why the 6-7 spell multiplied so quickly. I've examined that 6-7 spell a lot, and it has, most of my decodes have been going towards Prince lately. And for that reason, his birthday was June 7th. And I pointed out that 11, her birthday was June 7th as well. Because we were talking about Stranger Things. For those of you guys who have no clue what I'm talking about, we talked about the finale. And I said, I thought it was interesting that the Duffer Brothers cast 11, they put her birthday is June 7th, and then they chose to end the finale with a Prince song whose birthday is also June 7th, because the unification in love was also the muse. Prince had a muse several times in his life. Probably one of the most well-known ones we know was Apollonia from Vanity 6. And so the muse to me is the explorer. So the seeker wants to open up the whole new world. They want to explore. They want to see what the divine feminine is, what it looks like in many different shapes and forms, how to grasp thought, because this feminine concept is abstract. It is not solidified into one being. It is fluid. It is movable. It's interchangeable all of the time. It is not fixed. And so the masculine, and again, not the man, but the masculine searches for that because it is the opposite of what it emits as well. So when I think of Prince and I think of him having several different muses in his life, through his music, that became an elevation point towards consciousness. I believe he was already very conscious, but even the signs and symbols that he chose to do and chose to use publicly kind of emitted that frequency of what he was to the general public, but also what he saw himself as. And finding inspiration within the feminine was how that consciousness is raised. Feminine is the inspiration, the abstract, the not solid. We're not talking about solid platonics. We're speaking about something that cannot be grasped or touched because it is a thought concept that kind of wanders and wavers around the earth. Even when I think about the term sin, people always associate that word specifically with original sin in the Bible, but I think of Sin, the Mesopotamian god of the moon. I think of deities like Inanna and the descent into the underworld, and that being that form of feminine consciousness too. So there's the seeker and there's the finder. That's why we have like these runner and chaser relationships. There's always one person looking, the other person like, I'm just over here doing my own thing. There's another movie kind of like that I've seen, 500 Days of Summer. If y'all ever seen that movie with Zoe Deschanel before, I kind of got that vibe too, where I think it was Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He kept chasing after Summer, and then all of a sudden, his aspect changed, but he kept doing the same thing. He was always the seeker over and over again. Prince is beautiful. He knew he was a god and used it for the world's advantage. I think that if more people saw their own godhood inside of them, if they fell in love with themselves again, they would see what this means, what we're talking about. I don't believe that he used it for the world's advantage necessarily. I believe the world gravitated towards it. The lunar energy is magnetic, the feminine, the moon, it's not the sun, it's hidden. And when it's hidden, you have to go looking for it. You have to go into the places that are not easily seen by everyone, maybe not even fully grasped by everyone either. It's the one thing that cannot be grasped, just like the ocean. So when you start to emit that, obviously not everybody is going to be Prince themselves, but they can all find that because we are all unique fragments of a universe that is endless. And when you say that, like, wow, I live in a universe that's endless, there's no limitations. There's no less version of who I can be when I fully embody my own consciousness and who I am. I come into harmony with the self. And I think when all of you realize like the beauty that really lives in all people, even the ugliness that you see, I guarantee you there's some beauty there. You're like, I don't really know. I don't really know if there's any beauty there. No, there is, but there are hidden aspects to it. Oh yeah, I love all you guys' comments right now. They're fully evoking everything that I'm saying right now, which needs to be remembered. It needs to be spoken about because even when I was like, I don't know if I want to talk about this today, love has to be remembered. When you're watching all of this stuff happen, that's why I'm like, I don't really want to talk about ICE today. I don't want to talk about anybody who's getting publicly unalived, not because I don't care, but if we just focused for a moment on harmony with the self, small changes can be made everywhere. It doesn't mean that the whole matrix grid is going to collapse tomorrow. It means that your connection to the infinite is going to wake back up again. And when you see that that connection actually exists, that separation is invisible at that point. The only thing that's visible to you is the world. And the world is endless. It has many things to offer to you. The world becomes your oyster at that point. And so when we look at somebody mentioned Venus on YouTube, I want you to think about the Renaissance depiction because that's not even the only one or the most accurate one of Venus. We think about the birth of Venus and her coming out of the clam, coming out of the shell specifically. When we see that, what do you think of the birth of Venus? If you guys have ever seen the Renaissance portrait, what do you think about that? The separation has always been a choice. If anybody is familiar with the birth of Venus, what do we think about that? In fact, let me go grab a picture of it real quick. It's going to be on YouTube for those of you who are on right now. It's going to be on YouTube for you guys. The feminine being reborn out of the shell. But what is holding her in? Consciousness has to rise from somewhere. It has to rise from somewhere. But where does it have to move through? Water. Okay, somebody's got it. Memory. The feminine has to be remembered again. We're always complaining about the patriarch, but we never remember the feminine. What is she bringing to us? Our memories, our love, our trauma, our pain. She's bringing it back into awareness again so that it can become healed. Yes, water is the portal. I'm going to grab that Birth of Venus picture for some of you guys on YouTube. This is the birth of Venus, the beauty of existence, the feminine. Yes, the fact that we are souls that came down into the material reality in order to find our consciousness again, in order to be reborn again, in order to discover what we are actually here to do. We're here to come back into the awareness of the self. The self is not solely masculine. It is not solely the physical flesh, but our DNA does encapsulate the spirit of the cosmos. And I know that's so crazy to think, what do you mean the cosmos? I mean, hello, we live on a planet. We live on a plane of existence. And that plane is at an intersection right now because when we're at that crossroads, we're like Christ. We are nailed to the cross. But when we bring ourselves down and we resurrect that spirit and that consciousness back up again, we embody Sophia. Sophia is the divine spark of wisdom. No, it does not sound cheesy. Thank you. Yes, we do need to remember how to shine. Shining is the solar flare that happens within. You know how they always have on TikTok, you guys, the solar flares are coming. The solar flare you're looking for is happening in here. Somebody said, I think of purity and oneness, authentic feminine beauty. Thank you. What do you think of IQs and how they tie into our experience? If you want my personal opinion, I think that people just use IQs as a form of measurement, but knowledge can't be measured in numbers because it's never ending. So what would be the never ending number? I think it's just a way to make people's egos feel good sometimes. I mean, yes, it's a measurement and aptitude test of intelligence, but also are we out here measuring the IQ of a fly or of a bee? They're not paying bills and yet we are. So that's just my personal opinion. I'm sure there's someone with a much more scholarly answer than I have, but that's what I think of it well, we're not measuring the intelligence of every single human being. And if someone says, well, I have an IQ that's 145 or I have one that's 95. Okay, but like, how are you acting in your everyday life? Are you giving back? Are you being a kind person? Are you healing, your pain, your wounds? Are you getting smarter, quicker? Are you developing as you should be? Well, someone said, what is the ego's position when it comes to love and divine union? The ego is releasing and being at the same time. It's not holding on to the identity of what one is, but also knowing what it is at the same time. Like, I choose to be a formless nothing that just so happens to be in a physical flesh right now. When it comes to union and love, especially with that, no matter what or where you are, no matter what has happened to you, you are still a product of love, no matter what. And I know that there have been people who have come into this universe and world who were not sired the same way. And by sired, I mean, maybe your parents were not in love with one another, or, maybe you were adopted. It does not mean that you are not an evolution of the product of what love is, which is a neutral balancing force. It's finding that again. Yes, someone said the ego is a tool. It's a tool for self-reflection. It's a tool for evolution, for personal growth, of seeing yourself not as you would like to be, but as you are. And I don't know how many people actually truly have looked in the mirror and seen themselves. And do you even need a mirror to do that? We hold up these scrying mirrors in our hands every single day. You're looking at a mirror of yourself. You're looking at a reflection, whether it's directly you, an experience, a fragment of an experience. This is still something that becomes sort of a form of hypnosis. And again, if you can't look within, if you can't turn the phone off, turn the camera, the TV off, and go within and think, okay, this is what I'm here to do. This is what I want to achieve in life. This is what, I feel like my purpose is here. Not what I'm good at, but what my purpose is. This is how I draw union into my experience. Definitely the process of alchemy. So I want to go back and focus a little bit more on partnership and union to not stray too far away. There's a really cute Pixar movie I watched with my kids called Elementals. One of them was fire and the other was water, and they were not supposed to be together. And it was really funny, like the very specific choices they made. Like even though these are elements, they clearly looked based on certain cultural biases. And I thought about what that represented, specifically when the mother, who was some sort of spiritual reader, told her daughter that fire and water could not mix. It was not a thing. But they found that when they kind of altered their genetic makeup or they altered their creation, which was the water turning into another formless shape where light could move through him, that they created steam. It's like, you know what? That's interesting. That's a very interesting way of viewing divine partnership because you're not supposed to be exactly like the person who you want to be with. You're supposed to reflect one another. And reflecting that means you're not necessarily absorbing each other's energy where you take away, but you merge together as one. He said, I like that movie more than my kids do. Oh, yeah, it was we're an emotional household, so my kids definitely got it. But I was like, now Pixar knew what they were doing with that one. I don't now I know Disney, Pixar, we get a lot of frowning with them, but I think anyone who is a true seeker of knowledge can pull something out of anything that they see. They can pull a lesson out of anything. Because if you can do that, this means that you can view the world in this way where union is already within the self. So there's nothing that can truly corrupt that when you know yourself and you know your intentions. So if you do that, how you move through life and you find relationships can show up differently in your life no matter what. So, how do you all feel about your personal stance on union and partnership in the matrix? Because I know a lot of people ask me all the time about how do you know when someone's the one? And I always say it's like when you don't have to ask someone if someone is the one. In order to educate, you got to observe. Yes, I completely agree. I've stuck my nose in so many corners where people are like, don't go over there. I'm like, I need to know because I want to know why they're doing it. This is how I ended up getting really deep into tech, you guys. So I'm like, I just want to know how it operates. I want to know how phones work. I want to know what contracts are created behind them because to me, in turn, this goes back into soul contracts. The contracts that we make are binding agreements, just like a woman, when she gives birth, her body contracts. This is an agreement. There's an opening and closing of the celestial eye, which is technically the uterus, that is opening and closing to birth life. That is union. Because when the baby exits the amniotic fluid, I know this is graphic for some of y'all, but y'all saw the Matrix. Y'all saw when Neo woke up in the pod. When a baby is in amniotic fluid and comes out and takes that first breath, that breath is described as shu. And so that breath is the separation between the cosmic mother and the earth father, the masculine, which is the earth, the flesh, the material, and the spiritual mother, which is the dream, the womb, and the system from which we come from before we drop down again. Our breath is our connection. So when you see people who have spiritual practices, when they are using that as a form of opening up the pineal gland, or they use very fast forms of breathing, fire breath, in order to invoke that awakening and that energy, that's how it comes about as well. I woke up today really down about how I keep attracting men in which I'm the one doing too much. Wherever you feel like you're doing too much, do something for yourself. If you feel like you're over giving, if you are not pouring, your cup is empty, pour back into yourself. This is not a nod to just be like, yeah, screw them, to be selfish. I'm telling you, anything you would give to someone else, give it to yourself first. There'd be no point in giving away your knowledge, your energy, and your time. And this is in the system too, you guys. Think about how many people pour their time and their energy, their sight and their vision into scrolling online. The same time they could spend creating something for themselves, going outside in nature, maybe creating a piece of art, doing something that puts them in flow with themselves. But this becomes the new flow. And so when you realize that, I think it almost helps you see how many people online are deprived of human touch. If they're deprived of human touch, it's almost natural that the fingers almost become magnetic to talking, to tweeting, to writing things they don't really mean because they're high and heavy on emotion. It almost becomes a sexual force in that way. Except for that one felt like some sort of karmic cycle I put myself in. Well, karmic cycles too are a part of realizing just pattern recognition. Where have I done this before? Have I poured into myself or have I poured into another person? How can I give back to myself? If it's karma, it's the pendulum swinging back and forth. You got to get it back in balance with itself. When it's present, it makes everything you've been through make sense and it feels like it all led up to meeting the other person. I absolutely agree with that one. Let me put that up on the screen for a second. It's interesting you say it was the longest relationship you were in because the Black Mirror episode, which I was discussing, kept everyone on a time limit, however long they were with the other person. So I'll just like revamp because I spoke about it before I ended the first live on TikTok. The episode Hang the DJ, Black Mirror, all these people have different devices. And so they meet up with a potential partner. But it always gives them how much time they have with the other person and they get to do whatever they want with the time. So eventually, two of the people they meet up again. They're the first couple that meets, and then they end up together in the end. They choose to not pay attention to how much time they have together because time becomes an encapsulation system. If someone were to tell you you only have this much time with someone else, how do you spend that time? Do you spend it fighting? Do you spend it being in love, learning, growing, evolving? The same as your time here on Earth. Are you clocking to see how many more days do I have left till planet Earth is over? Or are you in flow with the cosmic force that's keeping you here right now? You know, it's very often everybody keeps coming saying, we're on a prison planet, we're on a prison planet. You don't think you have something to learn here? You don't think you had something to evolve with here? You thought it was just supposed to be easy street and then you get to leave again? If life were that easy, a baby wouldn't need help walking for the first time. It wouldn't need encouragement to learn how to stand and move, but it's also something natural that you learn to do over time as well. You don't stay crawling forever. You learn to walk, you learn to run, fall, hit your head, wobble a little bit, eventually go out on your first trip, fly for the first time, whatever it is that you're doing, you learn to evolve through different periods in your life. And so I view reality as the same. We do call it a prison planet because there are concepts that people do not understand yet, that they are not able to navigate through because those resources have not been made readily available. They've been gate kept and hidden. But just because something is hidden doesn't mean it's lost, does not mean it can't be found again. Yeah, someone said even if it's a prison planet, you created that. And humans in general taking responsibility for our choices is a hard thing that we've all been through. It's easy to look at every news article and just say government this, government that, but it's also up to people to have personal agency. Agency is choosing that, okay, well, if I think this is wrong in the world, then I'm going to do something about it, or I'm going to do what I can to make some kind of, I'm sorry, significant change in my life. I feel like when you make that connection, it knowingly or unknowingly fills a void we have. Absolutely. I believe everyone that's here within this 100 years has a specific reason being here. I believe that as well. It's like revelation. It's always been there, was just missing the awareness. Absolutely. I agree. And it's again about falling in love with yourself again. When you're in love with someone and you will just do anything for them. And I mean, like the days back when you used to see guys singing love songs. We're talking about the 80s. I'm holding the box over the head. Being in love makes you do some crazy things. And I wonder if humanity was in love with itself as much as it's in love with the artificial creation, how much would change? Because if you love something and you'll do anything for it, you're harmonizing with its force. You're in balance with it. So if you want to see a different world, what are you willing to do to change it? What are you willing to do to harmonize with it? How are you becoming in harmony? Are you singing together in your own individual frequency to harmonize? Being in love does make you want to love yourself more. And when you love yourself more, you find that loving becomes easy. It does not become hard. Somebody says, I still want to be at my window with a boombox. Maybe we need to bring that back because that's a lot of effort to hold a heavy boombox above your head singing a love song. Finding self-connection again. Everybody has such great answers today. I agree. It's too funny, but we're being so serious because love makes you laugh. It makes you fill with joy. And when you're happy, you want to move. You want to do things. When people are all in joy, they move in unison together. But when they're not, they're essentially frozen. That's why all those things about ice are out right now. I'm not going to talk about it, but we're thawing that ice right now. We're decalcifying the pineal gland. We're removing the cold mechanical energy from the universe and bringing back that harmony and that energetic force that brings back love. We do that through seeking partnership within ourselves so that the divine union comes to us. One thing I could not stand on one point at TikTok was like love readings every 5 seconds. But what I've taught, at least through decoding, is that when we're talking about relationship readings, because this is something that I'm offering now, it's not necessarily to tell you this is the right person or the wrong person. This is revealing codes to you in a whole nother way to show you your pattern recognition system to the choices you make about what you attract, what kind of energy you dispel, what may have happened that brought you to this point. Because I always like use myself as an example just to get into it. Hi, Kennedy. Um, when I realized that I had a traumatized relationship with the masculine, when I was coming up in my college years, I was always seeking for a boy to fulfill what my father did not give me. And that whole daddy's girl thing that becomes like daddy issues after a while became a thing until I went through my Saturn return. And my Saturn return matured me up to the fact that I could not redo what had happened with my father as a child. In fact, it became the exit point for me when it came to seeking gnosis. My first true experience with releasing the masculine in the material realm was my first psychedelic experience. And this is not advertisement for y'all. I'm just telling you about my life and what happened. And so exiting the material reality for the first time helped me see that life was not black and white. It was a full color spectrum. Everything that I was told was only taught from one perspective and not from a dual perspective. And because of that, it felt a little lost along the way. And so as I developed my intuitive skills over time, and this took years to do, I learned that when I trusted myself, but still executed some form of logic, it was not that I was replacing my father, but it was that I was executing what I learned from the masculine. When the masculine is unbalanced, it cannot hold both feminine and masculine at the same time. It can only hold one weight. It's like if you only practice lifting a weight on one arm, you can only do one arm. But if you practice working out the muscle on both arms, eventually you got guns, right? So, as I got older, I was like, okay, well, I love all these things. I have all these ideas, but I wasn't learning to put it into action with any movement. And then relationships that I was choosing, I was doing all the giving and I was not pouring into myself. And what kind of like opened up that field completely for me was becoming a mother. Because when I became a mother, I saw the versions of self sacrifice and pouring into yourself as well. Meaning, like for me, I was no good for my kids if I'm not fully rested. And a mother is never rested, to be completely honest, just as Mother Earth is never rested, or the mother of the cosmos is never rested. It's a constant force and moving energy. But building my dream, which was to give knowledge back to people, I didn't even fully realize the dream when I was 19 years old, y'all. I'm 33 now. And my story isn't done. It's only just starting. With my children, it's only just starting. And it's kind of like blows my mind when we talk about all this matrix stuff because I say, wow, whatever I'm doing now is going to create their world 50 years from now. I just don't see it in the moment because I'm in the moment right now. But if I time travel to the future and I look at the logical details, the masculine version of what's going on, and I tap back into the spiritual, I'm like, okay, so you are on the right track. Think about people who like second guess the dream or they second guess the partner. Oh, I don't know if that's right for me. How would you know? How would you truly know? Is it simply a series of patterns or is it an intuitive knowing that is developed with will being executed? And when we talked about like Trinity and Neo and Morpheus all coming together, the willpower and the execution of Neo to become the one was bringing the three aspects, mind, body, and soul together in order to execute the will of the one. He said, we're going to manifest a beautiful world for them. I had a dream. I time traveled with my black cat and I made the vaccine. Which vaccine? We're just talking about union and dreams and following them, learning how to see union and partnership within the matrix and within the self. going after your dreams because your dreams eventually become a reality. Anything that you've dreamt, as long as you have belief, that is enough fuel and energy for it, even if you don't see the outcome. In a soulmate, in a relationship, in a soulmate, when I think of split souls, I believe when we're talking about the splitting of the pleroma or the cosmos split into two, when you feel separate from another being, it's also something that you may be separate from in yourself. So let's say, for some women, you feel separate from a partner, you feel like you haven't found your soulmate yet. You have to look at yourself first, because whatever that person's going to be to you, it's not anything you can't fulfill for yourself. Now, no, the feminine no longer creates alone. The feminine needs the masculine in order to create as well. But again, we're not just talking about children. We're talking about the divine will and force paired with the cosmic thought and the energy. I can't emphasize that enough, because I don't want someone to come in like halfway and say, oh, she's talking about heterosexual relations. No, I'm talking about spiritual relationships. That's something completely different. Yes, and that was the kind of the toxic thing that I saw in like manifestation videos on early YouTube days and like mid YouTube days. People would say, "Oh, all you have to do is write 369 a bunch of times and manifest." And I tried that stuff for years, and eventually I got my wits about me. I was like, "What if you just started doing something? And even if you fail, even if it's not right the first time, what if you just start?" And I did fail. I went on to fail many times, hit my head many times. Am I ungrateful for it? No, because I never would have learned proper execution if I had not failed multiple times. If I had not been given a vision of, if I go this is going to happen. If I do this is going to happen. Same with partnership. There'd be guys that I dated before where, again, I wanted them to fulfill something that could not be fulfilled by someone else. It was something I had to fulfill myself. I can't go seeking in someone else to give me something that truly belongs to me at the end of the day. Divine will has to be executed. And so I'll say this also kind of ties into the feminine, because the whole damsel in distress thing ties into the princess and the dragon in the tower. The tower you can think of as the phallus in this situation, or you can think of it as the spine or the execution of the will. The fire breathing dragon is that kundalini energy. And when it gets its wings and it's flying, this is you stepping into divine knowledge with the self. The feminine cannot wait to be rescued. She has to rescue herself. She has to choose liberation. She has to choose freedom. She has to choose not to be in the entrapment system anymore. Oh, thank you. Someone said, shout out to the host. I'm a new subscriber. Welcome in. Welcome in. Another comment said, my mentor told me you don't need more awareness, you need action. And that's the spiritual trap I kind of see right now happening with technology. You can't ask ChatGPT 5 more questions that's going to put you on the right path. You just have to start doing something. Because I've seen that too. Like, maybe if I do this, this, and this, or maybe, at one point it was just me and my notebook. There was no ChatGPT. It was just me and my notebook, me and my 5,000 notebooks. Because if you're a millennial specifically, I've had like 9 million notebooks and planners and journals over the years, because I had to write things down. And now, falling in love with this AI god or this AI machine that is encapsulating the memory of what humans are, now it just has all the answers. But at some point, you have to execute on those answers. There's not any more developed plan that can give you the outcome you want more than real life experience. Just as riding a bike, because I remember, I'll even tell that story, because I'm sure everybody has a similar story. When I was learning to ride a bike, we lived on this street that had like a downward hill to it. And it was my first time on a two-wheeler. My stepdad kept making me ride down the hill over and over again, kept scraping my knee. I'm crying, snotting, boo-hooing. My mom saying, let her get her off the bike. Sun's going down. It's the same thing I would say if I saw the father of my children pushing my son or my daughter to keep riding, even though it looked like she had enough. And I will say, once I finally got downhill at the end of the day, that completely changed my perspective on what it means to keep trying. Was he a jerk? Probably. That's kind of how it works out. Like, the masculine will pushing you is a jerk. They're not going to be nice about it. They're not soft and nurturing. They're meant to create the structure of your life. Just as when we're talking about being in union, there's one aspect in partnership of someone who like has the household together. They know the bills. They know, how much you're paying for things. They know what's going to be turned on, what's going to be turned off. And then there's the nurture and the love. Some people do both jobs. Some people do. And so just seeing that kind of balance, and we're thinking about like executing things in real life. These are the lessons that we learn from evolution. Experience, yes, someone said it on YouTube. I'm gonna repeat you. YouTube or experience is the best teacher. It is the best teacher. Said I like the chat, but I argue with AI every time because we are the original. You can't copy the original. You can mirror the original, but that doesn't mean you are. You learn with the most hardest circumstances to deal with. Yes, and that is the evolution of Sophia. That is the evolution of the divine spark. The way that Gnostics always tell this story is that, oh, Sophia made this grave mistake by splitting herself from divine union or from the pleroma. And it's interesting because when I hear it through African cosmology, it's so much sadder. It's the story of Yamoja and craving children, wanting a material version of herself, and then angering the other Orishas because she wants a child. She wants something to give birth to. And I wonder, like, why are the perspectives so different when we're examining the divine spark of knowledge and it wanting to birth itself? Wouldn't it have to go through some form of separation from divine knowledge or cosmic knowledge in order to birth a material version of itself? And I look at the reality the exact same way. It would have to separate from somewhere in order to come into one with itself. It would have to separate into two. Then you have two versions. You have polar opposites. You have the masculine and feminine. They have to become intertwined again, interlinked in order to create a new nexus event that becomes the birth of the new world. And so, as it's happening right now, again, what we're realizing with tech, somebody said ancient intelligence is artificial intelligence. We're watching the rebuilding over and over again. Have you heard of the Chris Bledsoe guy who said she came to him? No, but Sophia comes to everyone. I think that's another like weird thing. When you hear one person saying something, you think that the divine spark is exclusive to one person. And as someone who's had like sacred medicine experiences, who's spoken with grandmother Aya, who's been with Ibogaine, I've sat with many different medicines before. What I can tell you is this revelation that a lot of people have had that I've really only heard the masculine make a lot of like shows and podcasts about. It's what giving birth feels like. Like with no drugs, what giving birth feels like is this ecstatic euphoria of being back with the divine feminine. The expression of talking to Sophia is not a person. It's like Moses in the burning bush. You're not talking to a person. You're communicating with the emanation, I'm sorry, of all. So, even with stories like that, I don't really get, you have to ask yourself when you see stories like that, like, oh, I heard the Vatican is investigating him or the CIA. What do we really actually get from those stories? What do you truly gain when you hear something like that? And when you ask yourself why those stories are pushed out so much, it's almost as if it's designed to interact with you. So you think that communication with the divine feminine is exclusive to one person. No, Sophia is a Greek word, and Greece was not the origin of any of these. It's just an emanation of the same thing as Isis or Inanna, of the first draconian mother. There's no separation. They're just reused terms over and over again to show the same story, the Madonna and child. If you don't know those original stories and you don't see the repeat over and over, then you think that one story is the original. But if all stories are coming from one source and then replicating over time, it kind of becomes like a virus after a while, and the virus can be infiltrated with other ideas, with other memories. But it's interesting, even with the serpent, someone said the serpent in the Adam and Eve story, that's why her depiction, she's always standing on a serpent. Yeah, Mary, Queen of Heaven, is always standing on a crescent moon with the serpent intertwined around it. It's interesting because these Renaissance depictions never show you these much older ones of the water sibyls, who also had serpents as well, of the African cosmologies that show communications with serpents and snakes. And yet we talk about the coiling kundalini or the spine, and that's supposed to be a serpent as well. We see the staff of Asclepius or the Caudacious staff that also has a serpent. But then we're told it's evil. So it's like, which one is it? Because the whole world is technically an illusion. It's our eyes playing tricks on us, snake eyes. But it doesn't mean don't do anything, don't interact with it. It means that as material reality exists in the external, so it does in the mind. And if it's a part of you, if it's a part of channeling your spiritual energy, then this means that you too are a co-creator in this universe. Even in Harry Potter, the first thing he finds out is that he can talk to snakes. I wonder why they did that. Then they deem the most evil house, the green and black one, as Slytherin. And you see there's a lot of like offsets to that story. Like maybe Snape wasn't that bad. Maybe he just got screwed over at the beginning. The Medusa having serpents come out of her head. Now, imagine when people started finding out these were actually coils. The serpents were actually curly hair. When I found that out, my hair was still growing. I was growing it back from a fro at one point. I was like, huh. So this is supposed to be a serpent. I was like, well, guess they think I'm evil then. That divine knowledge, that spiraling coil makes me who I am. And you know what's even funnier? Because like the feminine is so adaptive. I remember when I went back to straightening my hair, and I did it simply out of convenience, y'all. I had been natural since like 2010. I only just started straightening my hair like a year and a half ago. Some wannabe woke dude came in my comments, was like, you cutting off your connection from the ether, my sister. I'm like, if you don't shut up. It's crazy how I still have this knowledge no matter what my hair does. It doesn't like just fade into the ether because I decided to use a flat iron. Like that's not how it works. We're an impression of God. Yes, I agree. When we sleep, our spinal fluid flushes our brains of waste. Yes, and don't have your phone in your room for that very reason. Man, you know the hoteps and how they are. They think they know everything, and we're supposed to abide by all of it. This is why the knowledge has to be taught from both perspectives. That's why I cannot be in a room necessarily where, I'll hear some very scholarly, very intelligent men speaking about the divine feminine and union and how she has to be called back. And I don't see any women in the room. I see women in the audience. I don't see women speaking. I'm like, I hear my people, but I don't see my people. And I mean speaking from a place of nurture and then exhibiting will as well, not just one or the other. I feel like some are attached to the vessel and not enough with the soul. That's why we got soul music. It's the beauty of the original blueprint. The blueprint, the blue jeans. That's why the denim themes have been so heavy and union. We're going back into union with the cosmos. A lot of people have been separate for a very long time. Some people will be rediscovering this partnership within another. I think 2026 will be the year of new union as well. So people who are, I'm not saying wait around and hope that this person magically comes up, but because we are in a year of one again, for some people, this will be the initiation into new relationships, whether it's a relationship with yourself, whether it's new partnership, whether it's romantic or platonic partnership. This will definitely be the new year for that as well, because they're just people pleasing on me. Y'all are always so funny on here. Hold on, let me pull this up. Sorry, guys. Hold on 1 second. I swear I feel it. Music woke me up at a young age, trauma bonding in with it 1000%. That's why we have to go back to listening to love songs. We have to. It is pertinent that we go back to listening to love songs. They're what is connecting, or what is connecting us. It's the driving force connecting us through humanity, through consciousness, waking back up again, fall back in love again. If anybody can do anything with their day, fall back in love again. Birth rates are drastically down worldwide. Where did you read that at? Who reported that to you? Who told you that? I'm being very serious. Who told you that? Where did you get that information from? Do you think our spirit is somewhere sleeping and this is somewhat a dream in itself? Absolutely. Absolutely. Life could be a dream. I love Kizomba, bachata, all musics that require embrace. The same government that's been lying about your history throughout. Yeah, if we tell everybody birth rates are low, nobody's making babies anymore, and then we give you things like, what was that, the red balloon challenge? Okay, you saw graphs. Who was giving you these graphs? You have to think about where you're getting your information from and what it's meant to do to interact with your psyche. Whenever you guys like bring in a comment and you say, I heard or I saw, are you actually vetting out the information for yourself? Are you considering how the measurement of the population is happening? Who exactly they're talking about? Who submitted their information to tell you whether they were having babies or not? Are their babies off grid? Or are their babies in the hospital? You really got to vet out your information. That's why I said, who told you that? Because obviously, if you're saying it out loud, this is something you're now internalizing. So examine where you're getting your information from and how it's meant to impact you too. Because if someone, let's say they wanted to have a baby, right? And they saw that comment or they saw that somewhere, what would that invite in their lives? Oh, nobody's having babies anymore. Maybe I won't get pregnant. Maybe this won't happen to me. Or maybe I'm not meant to be in partnership. Or maybe the world really is ending. You see how that can like invite those kinds of ideas in? Everything is validated programming until you understand the world. You're going to continue down. Exactly. Yes, we have to listen to some music that invites embrace back in. You guys need to learn what a hug is. Give each other not this always end up being Sunday school. Turn to your neighbor and give them a hug. Go give your mom a hug. Go give somebody a hug. People who are on social media all day long are usually sensory deprived, which is why they have to be touching the phone, touching something all the time. Um, Stores are really just explaining what's going on in the body. Exactly. Al Green. Okay, now you guys are gonna make me play. No, I can't see. I can't play a song because last time I did that, they blocked my live on YouTube. I have to remember that music has licensing to it. I really wish I could play my music. TikTok doesn't care. YouTube does. And if someone wants to go back and watch the live stream, they may not be able to access it because they block it. So somebody make some music and let me use it in your live next time. I will credit you. You will get all the credit for it. Anything that, well, I don't monetize off of YouTube or anything, but anything that I generate, you generate. After reading 1984, how can we trust any statistics that's being told to us from the media? I don't. I also don't let statistics solely shape my life because if I did, I would never go out and venture for my own information, ask how it's being measured. Most demographics these days are being measured by phones, by what people are interacting with online, through surveys, through information and data collecting that's happening in tech too. So it's the same about relationships. You think your phone doesn't know when you're single, when you're craving intimacy, when they're showing you certain things or certain people because they know where your attention and focus will be. This is why partnership has to come together again. Union has to come together again because obviously, if you don't see it in person or feel it, the machine is going to give you something to crave. And if you're constantly craving and you're not embodying, then you can't bring or draw that into your life as well. Music has always been the answer. I agree. Because no matter whether you are hard of hearing, you can hear, you can always feel vibration. People can feel and they can sense. And for those people who can't feel, they can still witness. And even if you can't physically witness, you can still feel it in here and in here. Advertising, dating sites, etc. Yes, that's why I mentioned the red balloon challenge because that's what it felt like to me. The choice of decision making upon sight and then all the judgment happening with thousands of eyes of on social media watching who will you choose, who will you be with, who will you deny. That's not organic because true love, in my opinion, when it's organic, it's something that's felt. It's not something that's always witnessed by the world, just as the relationship between the cosmic sky mother and the earth father was not something that was physically witnessed but somehow remembered by all people and drawn in many interpretations in all cultures across the world. It was something that was known about physical and spiritual union coming together, and not only knowing but feeling that it would happen once again. It's not something that would be separate forever. It'll be something that we come back to. Dopamine versus serotonin, oxytocin, absolutely. When people are mean and angry to you, they're deprived of love. They're deprived of touch. Now, I'm not going to tell you a hug and a kiss is going to fix everything, but when you are sensory deprived and you are not used to that feeling, it feels kind of like you're swimming out in space alone. Reminds you a little bit of Daniel Kaluuya in The Sunken Place. When you're grasping for something energetically, you can be drowning spiritually, in your mind, in your memories, in the sea, in the ocean that lives inside of your body. You drown in memory, you drown in thought, and then you get attached to this place you cannot pull yourself back out of. But the wondrous thing that I've felt and seen about consciousness is that this cradle that you're inside of right now is of the universe. And so when you don't recognize her, it feels like you're falling and drowning. When you do recognize her, you realize that she is the encapsulation of your memories, of your story, and of your life journey as well. Uh, we learn from pattern recognition, and these computers can't keep up with what we're doing. They can't. They could try, you know. That's the idea. If these machines gather enough data or information on humanity, maybe they'll be able to, keep up with what we do all of the time. But love is something that is a universal concept. And because it's universal, it means it does not matter your background, where you come from. This will be something that is embodied no matter what. There's a person named Rude Gal Channel that says, "You lady, you lost." You would think on the day we're talking about love, there would be solely love, but it's always something. It's always something. Somebody who is truly in love would not force themselves into something into which they did not belong. We know what that's called. Exactly. We're going to give them love and send them on their way. I think if I had not witnessed as much as I did, I wouldn't have forgiveness for the things that I've seen, because I've seen some pretty treacherous things in person and online. If I didn't have it, then I'd have nothing. If I don't have forgiveness in my heart, that means I have no evolution. I have no growth abilities. I'm stuck. I'm anchored. I'm tethered to the material realm. I can't move beyond that. Now, if I let go of things, if I don't let them put their weight, their spiritual and emotional energy onto me, whether it's a bot online or an actual person, I don't let it bring and drag me back down into the demiurge. I soar back up into the cosmos again. And so, you know how the mechanical language of the matrix is encouraged, right? Because I'm someone who talks about it for a living. Y'all know, if you've been part of my lives before, I speak about the matrix for a living. So the term simulation defines a story, a set time, place, and script. And some people who are a little bit more nihilistic, they'll say, "Yeah, we live in a simulation, and this is all thought and quantum physics." And yes, it is. It's a lot of different factors that make our world: genetic coding, DNA, the fourth dimension. Raising consciousness and frequency, paired with just so many different things I could name right now. But the point is, bringing and encapsulating all those things together makes physical matter, and it also makes thought. Someone had to think something before it was created. Someone had to think of a name before they gave it something. And so, the same way we've spoken life into creation, something was spoken into us. Where did we get the word human from? How was language created? How was language spread across different countries? Learning about that. So, when I see these things, it's funny because I don't really have like one specific way of looking at it, but I realize when people use colder language and make it solely about quantum physics, and again has a huge layer to it, black holes, simulations, there's a disconnect. If I bring love back into the equation, that completely changes it. Love is something that cannot be overridden by code. They can try, but if I love you anyway, even if you come in here acting an ass, then what can you really do about that? That's the same as like dodging bullets. I'm gonna love you anyway, even though you acting out of pocket, you're out of order, but I'm gonna still love you anyway. I don't want to be around you, but I'm still love you anyway. You see how that works? Because it's universal. It's the heart chakra. And it's interesting because I was also, I'm always thinking about like the main examples we have on the world stage right now. And I thought about Kendrick Lamar's The Heart Part 5. I spoke about that with him transforming into the other faces and figures using the company Deep Voodoo. And I was like, okay, like Vodun, but why? And why would he transform into these faces? And the most prominent one that stood out to me was Nipsey Hussle. Mostly because when I code, y'all know I'm thinking of names, and I thought of Nipsey Russell and how he plays the Tin Man. And what did the Tin Man need in The Wiz? A heart. He needed a heart to drive his mechanical nature. He could not be in a physical vessel without redeeming his heart, without getting that back. But in the end, finds out that was something he had to give back to himself. Now, Wicked is another version. He was pissed. He was pissed in that one. But if we talk about the Light Wizard of Oz version, of what restoring love is, I think it's also getting into synchronicity and timing with the self as well. I'm glad, you guys. Hi, Debbie. Debbie's the greatest, you guys. You guys need to follow her YouTube. She makes awesome content. I love it. It always puts me back in the mood of visualizing this experience as art, make love, make paintings, make drawings, make music, bring that back. I was actually also talking about the show The Get Down. Did y'all ever see The Get Down before? I love The Get Down. And you know why I love The Get Down? Because it's solely in that era between the 70s and the 80s where music was still very much alive. And when I was watching it, I was like, why don't we do this anymore? This is why people feel like love is dead, because there's no more Soul Train lines. There's no more feelings of euphoria and dancing in harmony with people, no matter their background, letting music be the unifier between all people. And so, when you get those kind of like wake up calls, it's like, okay, well, we have to do that in real life. We have to isn't there a song you have to make your own kind of music? You have to be able to step back into that frequency again. The Get Down was really, really good, especially with wasn't I think Nas voiced the main character, like the adult version of himself, though I think Daveed Diggs played him like his physical version of himself. But it all started off with rap and music and songs. Debbie, someone wants to know your YouTube. Can you post it? It's Debbie Bo Bebby on YouTube. I want to make sure I spell it right though. What's so crazy is people are doing it's not mainstream because it doesn't evoke the same heaviness that the negative does. Oh yeah, I definitely see people doing it for sure. I do. And to make it mainstream, this means we have to change our stream of consciousness or our stream of thought. Bring it more to the forefront again. Major corporations are not backing positivity, because if they were, where would their money go? People will be pouring back into themselves and their own construction, and things are going back into the underground, which was the whole point of the Matrix. We're going back into Zion, back into the heart, the last human city, the last frequency of the wavelength. The human is the hue man, the full light spectrum of consciousness, waking back up, going underground. I think there's a song by Janelle Monáe called Cold War, where she says the only place to be is underground. Because when you are beneath the code of the mainframe, when you are still evoking this energy, moving through the reality, learning how to step in time with the music, get on rhythm, get on beat, you learn how to step back into your heart center. And so, people who were reading the code were navigating the ship. The ship was going through the cosmic field. And I think like when we're all in our houses or driving our vehicles, we forget we're on a planet. I think that's really easy to forget. Like, we're like, oh, the Matrix, life sucks. I don't really like it. Like, wait, I live on a planet. I don't live in the state of ... I don't live in the country of ... I live on a planet. I live on a landmass on top of water that has cosmic space, infinite space. And I'm telling myself every day, I can't do it. I'll never find love. I'll never be in union with myself. That's programming. That's a script. Start to break the script. Debbie said her next video is about the endocannabinoid system and how the medicine cannabis is symbiotic with our bodies. You guys check out Debbie Bo Bebby on YouTube. If you cannot see, I don't have it on my TikTok right now, but if you go check the YouTube, she's on there right now in the comment section. So be sure to do that. I'll post it later to my story. Thank you guys so much. So, before we end the live today, I just want you guys to know I am doing relationship decodes. Now, this is not solely for finding your twin flame or soulmate. So, let's make that clear real quick because I don't want you guys to get confused about what I'm offering versus what I'm not. I am not here to tell you the love of your life is going to return in 60 days. I am here to show you the coding and the patterns of our own relationships, whether you're someone who is single, someone who's already in partnership, learning what that relationship looks like. There's a description in each decode on my website. If you go to the decoding session, we do have our normal decode still up, but the relationship decodes are for people looking to understand and define partnership. Now, we are in the year of one, so going into 2027 will be the year of two, which where the union will start to speed up a little bit in learning the relationship with the self, the shadow, and the light aspects. Yes, so there's three different kinds. So there's the personal decode, there's the relationship timelines, and then there's a relationship decode. So three different aspects. But if you are single or you just want to do it for yourself, there's one there as well because you are building a personal relationship for yourself. So you can check these out via my website today. These will be available. I encourage anyone who is seeking to learn about the coding of partnership, of the masculine and feminine. These are live Zoom sessions, by the way, you guys. They are 1 hour Zoom sessions. So we are meeting face to face. This is not simply just a write, and this is what will happen in your life. No, we're not doing that. I want to start meeting with people in person again. I wasn't doing it as much because I'm not sure people are getting enough out of it. But I think once we can speak face to face about what you're seeing in your relationships in the everyday, how you are gravitating towards finding union with the self, this can completely change the aspect. Plus, with all this matrix stuff, I want to see people again. I like meeting my clients from all over the world. I like when y'all book with me face to face because this means we are now forming a connection. Once we get offline, if I ever want to travel to such and such, we can meet up. I'm in New Orleans. If y'all ever come down here, I will meet you. I'll say, let's go to the French Quarter. Let's go walk around and go see some museums, go see what life is outside of the grid. Because our coding is just how we find one another. The real work happens when we meet up in person again and we start looking into what is union and partnership with the self, with community, and how do we find that again. Gloria says, ever since I started pouring into me and truly loving me, I haven't been feeling like I want to find a relationship because you're no longer seeking for something to fulfill you. You're doing the fulfillment work. You are now your own Amazon fulfillment center. Congratulations. You don't have to go seeking something online anymore. Now you are doing it for yourself. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing. It all starts with our relationship with ourselves. Absolutely. And guys, if you can do anything today, go play a love song. Go play a love song. I don't care if it's from the early 2000s, from the early 1950s, or from yesterday. Go play something that evokes the feelings of love. You do not have to be in a relationship. It doesn't have to be a sex song. Something that gives you the feeling of love, whether it's the memory of a grandparent, the feeling of dancing with your father for the first time, your first love. Tune into that frequency to remember that feeling in your body, in your soul, and in your energy as well. This changes the dynamic of how we interact with the matrix as well, because as your algorithm is reading you, it's trying to decide what you're going to do next, what to invite to you, what's going to show up on your Netflix screen today, what's going to be suggested to you for Disney Plus, what thing are you going to buy that you feel like is finally going to make you that person. It's about being that right now by embodying that, by making sure you're doing that as well. What songs? Okay, you guys, list some songs that you're listening to right now. What songs are we listening to? And it's interesting, Debbie is doing something on the endocannabinoid system because this is how I actually started my journey, y'all. It was talking about sacred medicine. It was talking about my relationship after I gave birth and how it helped me move through my pregnancy and after. Learning the cosmic feminine and my connection to it. Some Marvin Gaye. I want to play music, guys, but it'll get blocked off of YouTube if I play it. Last time when we were doing live decodes with music, I'm going to have to do private sessions for that are not on YouTube that you guys can get through links. Maybe I can do a different streaming service like Kick or something that'll let me play music on it. Rick Clark, a song called Love, Morning Glory, Wale. Oh, I haven't heard Wale in a minute. I was such a J. Cole, Wale girl in college. I listen to Taylor Swift often. I feel embarrassed to admit that. Taylor Swift has some little hits in her bag. I'm not gonna lie. She has some hits. She may be her, but she has a few hits in her bag. Slow Dance by David Ruffin. Ooh, I was just thinking about Wiz Khalifa using David Ruffin for his Cushion OJ cover. I was like, there's a reason why even a rapper channeled that smooth R&B, that smooth song. I mean, David Ruffin was a part of the Temptations. Leon, the guy who played him, was in the Five Heartbeats. That energy was very potent and very awake. Debbie, you say you're a New Orleans girl too, on the North Shore since Katrina. Wait, we're in the same place, Debbie? Get out. Get out. I have family on the North Shore in St. Tammany. Otis just came on Stand By Me. As by Stevie Wonder. That's a good one. I need to listen to some Chronics. Smile Jamaica is the first song that came to mind for Chronics. Alan Cave. 90s music. Yeah, we just need to go transport back to the 90s. We go transport back to the 90s. I think we can bring love back. Because I'm so sick of TikTok trends and playing this music that has nothing to do. We need feel good music because Gen Z, and even if y'all are Gen Z in here, I'm sorry, but Gen Z cannot recreate love songs. They can't create dance challenges to love songs. Maybe they could, but nobody would like it. So, ooh, Portuguese Love by Tina Marie. Okay, Fire and Desire. Alexander O'Neill, New Love Like This. Okay, you guys are gonna rebuild a new playlist for me. Chronics Love is on the Mountain. I like Love Is by Ja Cure. That's another song that I really like. Yeah, we need to just bring all of those songs back. Bring that frequency of love back up through the collective. That is something that can't be killed at all. Debbie, that's crazy. And we met through Real Enigmas and Theories, who you guys should also follow. Amazing esoteric decoder of shows and movies. And me and Debbie met through Real Enigmas and Theories this time last year. So that's what I mean about like soul connections with people, even on the internet, which is such a weird space to be like, oh yeah, I met somebody on there. But we were also doing the same thing in MySpace days and Instagram days. Like, oh yeah, my friend and such, and our parents were looking at us like we were crazy. But I've made some real meaningful connections with people in spaces online. It's not all bad. I think it gives us an opportunity to find connections in places we never would, all over the world. Unfortunately, my kids make me listen to K-pop Demon Hunters. My daughter asked to watch it. I said no. Mm-mm. Maybe when you're older. She's like, my cousin said she could watch that. Okay, that's your cousin. That's not me. I didn't know. Now, what you can listen to is me play Anita Baker. I believe the awakening wouldn't be happening without being online. I do feel like that. I feel like conscious evolution has to be driven by taking us to our breaking point. Because as things fall apart, they have to come back together again. They have to be restored as they fall apart. And if love is the universal force that connects that means we're making music again. We're dancing again. We're connecting in spaces where we should be separate, where we should be apart. I mean, personally, I'm making connections with people all over the world who do things I wouldn't even imagine looking into. And that has been the unifying force. Debbie said, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. But I believe that works in many ways. Friends are often the best teachers. Absolutely. Someone's going to have me put Portuguese Love back on my playlist again. I'm like, okay, this is why the feminine energy has to be brought back up. Bring back the boom boxes over the head. Bring back, people still do that. They're still skating together. I've seen older couples. That's one thing that makes me emotional. Whenever I see these videos of these old couples skating together, like rollerblading together, I'm like, oh, because it's so cute and they're so like in harmony with one another and they don't need their phones. They don't need to be anything but with each other and in union. It's just a pattern recognition that doesn't require calculations. It's a love that's unified that doesn't require separation. And that's what I see like with the younger generation right now. They want this instant gratification and they're looking for like sexual drive. Like, no, you need union. I got your back, you got mine. We're moving together. We might be moving in separate directions sometimes, but we're intertwining with one another. Yes, the old school love. I don't know what broke in the system between like 1999 in 2025, but something like they're like, maybe if we adjust this some, we need to get it back on track again. Oh, yes. So instead, about to bust out my multi-track and guitar. Absolutely. I've always been like a 70s, 80s baby. My mom was born in the 80s, so she played naturally 70s music. My grandparents played and sang 50s music. So it's just about keeping that evolving over and over again. I'm actually about to hop off in a little bit, guys. I don't want to keep you on here too long. We had such a great live today. It was just about love and union and bringing that back again, bringing back the creative driving force of the Matrix. The Matrix is not all just binary code, it's also tapping into the feminine wisdom, exerting the masculine force, bringing those things back together again to come back into union with the self. Nice. Serenading someone with a beautiful song, absolutely. Definitely need to go back to that. Definitely need to go back to serenading. What does it feel like to sing to someone you love again? The Matrix wants you to identify everything as cold and mechanical, but it's warm. It's about love. That's why these themes about ice are being pushed so heavily right now. Don't forget, the Earth's core is warm. Got to heat things up again. How do you bring the fire back? Somebody play Fire and Desire. How do we heat the flame of awareness back up? The divine spark is that solar energy. You got to hype up the solar flare again, get the energy to start moving, reawaken to itself. Kaylani kind of saving R&B with Folded. I haven't listened to Kaylani in a very, very long time. Love Who's you guys' favorite poet? And see, now you're about to get me started when I was about to get off. My favorite poet is Saul Williams. He has this beautiful book called Said the Shotgun to the Head. And one of the first poems is about a psychedelic kiss. And it made me think of the music because you know what else just happened? I'm not going to go into it, y'all. I'm not about to start decoding super heavy, but I did see that one of the members of the Grateful Dead just passed away. And it had me thinking about the whole era of psychedelic rock and music and how much that awakened people. And I keep seeing videos like, where are the white boys with the rock bands? Like, we need to come back because something's not right with music anymore. We have to go back to that. I saw Stacey Dash dancing to Shaka Khan. I'm like, yeah, that whole era got wiped away. We need to bring that back. Seriously. Rumi, okay. Dr. Seuss, Green Eggs and Ham. You and my son have a lot in common. We read that every day. That's his favorite Dr. Seuss book. The boys that would be in rock garage bands or new red pill school blasters. I wonder what was their driving point. Andrew Tate. He's amazing using guitar and the way he sings. Yeah, we have to bring it back, y'all. I've been saying it like 9 million times. Thank you. See you guys in YouTube. Okay, MKG. Okay. We need more Herbie Hancocks. We need more people who are doing soul funk music. There will never be another Michael Jackson. There will never be another Prince. But it does not mean that music is dead. It does not mean that love is dead. People need a muse again. Every great musician has a muse. Every great musician has a muse, something that they're embodying or seeking through their music. I mean, y'all saw Sinners, right? Sammy had a muse. Pearline. Why? What's at the center of an oyster? A pearl. What was he doing prior to the vampires coming? Sexual energy is divine inspiration, whether y'all think so or not. We're all grown ups in here, so we can see that. Nickelback, Blink 182, Savage Garden, so many good ones. All American Rejects, Green Day. India Irie is my forever go to. Always. Always. We will always love India Irie. That's why the neo soul in general just needs to come back. Pearl diving. You said I'm connecting those dots. The patterns are everywhere. You can't ignore the patterns. The vampires wanted Mary, right? Mary's blood, Mary of mixed origin, a child of heaven and earth, black and white. It's all analogy, really. Red Rum Melody by Tiffany. Okay. Well, you guys have given me quite a lot to explore. I'm actually probably going to go make a playlist. Something in My Heart by Michelle A. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be making a playlist. It reminds me of the YouTube channel Colors before Colors started putting mainstream artists in there. When they started putting mainstream artists on it, they ruined it. Colors was big back in like 2016, 2017, and it was all underground artists, especially from like different countries and stuff. And then they started putting mainstream in it, and I just was not feeling it anymore. I feel like Young Boy was into Negro spiritual music before becoming mainstream. I wouldn't doubt that at all. Sade, yes, definitely. In fact, I'm about to go play some of my vinyls. I used to do that before after work, before my kids, I would go to this store called Peaches on Magazine Street in the French Quarter, and I would gift myself with one vinyl every paycheck because all I could afford was my rent at that time. And I would buy vinyl every 2 weeks when I got paid. I want to go back to doing that. Okay, I won't be able to show YouTube because I'm in my office right now, but I can show you guys on TikTok before I hop off real quick some of my vinyls I have. Next time I go to NO, I would love to meet you. We're gonna have an NO meetup at some point. If I know that people are truly interested, I'll get together a gathering because this is a touristy spot anyway, and it's such a great experience. I think for anybody to have. I've lived here so long that I'm not like fairly impressed by much of anything, but I'm always excited for people who've never been down here to come and see things too. I live in New Orleans. Yes, Peaches. Where you live roughly 10 minutes from downtown. Have you ever spoke as to why Seraph's matrix code is different? Not yet, but we'll cover that in another one. Well, I wasn't born here. I've only lived here for about 14 years now, but I gave birth to both my children here, fell in love with the city in college, met a guy in college. One of my first union partnerships was with someone who was from the city. Y'all know I fell in love with the accent and somehow stumbled my way into the underground city. But I've been here ever since. Not with that person anymore, but my spiritual relationship evolved through New Orleans. I will agree. My moon line goes through here on astrocartography. You'll get some experiences. That's why whenever I see the people coming online talking about New Orleans is so evil, there's vampires everywhere. I'm like, you wouldn't know a vampire if you saw one. Y'all think everything down here is the originals. As someone who has worked in spiritual shops down here before, it is not. Y'all are watching Hollywood's interpretation of New Orleans. Not everything is Bourbon Street because it stinks down there anyway. There's many other parts of this city that are beautiful to be explored, many murals to see, many very talented people here. Like there's so much more than what they show you on TV. I had an old friend from there who moved to New York, and it's a huge spot for New Yorkers. Like I have friends from New York who've been down here. One of my good friends is coming back down here for a while. Anybody who's part of the Caribbean mostly lives here for the most part. Like it's a huge melting pot of all different people, but also from all different states. It's just like it's for people who are seeking freedom and liberation from the society mainstream. Is it easy to live here? No, but it's also called the Big Easy. So yeah. Feel bad for anyone's moonline in North Korea. Oh no. Shout out to North Korea. Hope y'all are all right over there. I wanted to move there and didn't follow my intuition. Me coming here was like not on purpose, but it was destined. And when I followed my codes, I figured it out. Because before I even met that guy in college, I saw Princess and the Frog for the first time. And after that, I was like, yeah, I was supposed to live here. It's not as cute as the Disney movie. However, I did spend my first 5 years without a car riding the streetcar to work. So it's a great example. I love the streetcar. I mean, if you running late, it's probably not the best idea, especially on a day where the city is packed. But I mean, it's cute. It's cute. Like when you're looking out the window, but then when there's like 9 million tourists trying to get on it at one time, and you just trying to get home, it's not fun. 504 Ninth Ward. Okay. I'm always gonna love New Orleans, no matter where I live. This will always be my home, no matter what. I think I was destined to come here when I started really doing the decoding of the Matrix, learning my stories. Like y'all know, I've had some videos about Haiti and the Haitian Revolution, the history of the United States, and how it's tied to here, especially with what happened at the Super Bowl last year. I definitely felt the work that I'm doing right now is intentional. And I probably have spent previous lifetimes near France, Haiti, different places in the Caribbean, which is how I ended up here. So my soul remembered to come back to this spot this time, hence the moon line here. He said them beignets be smacking, of course. I'm actually about to start learning how to make them at home rather than going down and waiting in line or going to they have a new one. They have a new cafe beignet in the French Quarter. I saw it. It's really nice. I'm like, let me go sit down in there. But I'm gonna learn how to make them at home too. And grew up in Port-au-Prince. Okay, yeah, it was huge Haitian population down here. Huge. Yes, because your moon line is your subconscious. Your moon line is your subconscious. That's the house of the mother. So any place your moon line goes through may be somewhere you have spent a previous incarnation at. Mine goes straight through like down the Mississippi, down through where I grew up. I was born and raised in St. Louis. Grandfather from Canada, great grandfather from Canada as well. Migrated here from France. So there's like the whole bloodline goes straight down. Would you ever move to Mississippi? I don't know. I went to Mississippi like twice on the mega bus and I was scared when I was there, but it wasn't because of anybody there. It was because it was nobody there. Like they took us to some random stop where there were no people. So I haven't like gotten to see what Mississippi is like, but I've met some very kind people from Mississippi. My mom's from there and I feel like it's a curse. Oh, well, don't say it's because of sinners at least. Because I'm sure that was like had people like this is not what Mississippi is like. I don't think it is. I think any southern state, even though most southern states are rooted in racism, also have a warmth to them. When I moved to Louisiana from Missouri, I will tell you up there they mean mug people. Up here, you were forced to say hello to everyone. And I had to learn that real quick in my first job. I'm like, why are they all saying good morning to me? Like, why don't we just look away and not look at each other? And then it became a thing. So now, like, if I'm in public, I don't go anywhere without like giving someone a light smile. Like, even if I'm like, ugh, they stink. Like, is I don't think like that, obviously. But I say like it's the Southern hospitality. Yes, the welcoming. Born and raised in Missouri, family from Parish. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think there's a bloodline of people that have traveled that far down through the Nile Delta and ended up down here. Hence the blues. That's why we know the blues. We know the music. Also, fun fact, guys, my family's last name, even though I'm a Declue by birth, my mom married a Blue. So my name has been Blue and Declue over the lifetime, over my lifetime. Isn't that so weird? That's how you know Matrix has like the coding in your names and stuff. Because I'm like, why would my mom be married to someone named the Clue and then Blue? And she didn't like stop and like, maybe is this a good decision or not? But it made my life. Yes, Blues Clues. And what do I do for a living? I solve the mysteries of the Matrix. I miss just not getting a dirty look for holding the door for someone sometimes. Sometimes, but I do. There's no place like New Orleans. If you've never been here, you will never see another place like this again. Nowhere in the world. Maybe similar experiences, but never will you ever be anywhere here like this, especially at Mardi Gras, y'all. Especially at Mardi Gras. Not come on, Blue Ivy. It's spelled differently to yours. Hold on, I didn't see the first. Oh, you're you know, mine is not originally spelled like that either. That's interesting. It was actually Duclos. They changed it. Like when my grandfather was in Canada, when they had to used to write those cards like for the census population, it's actually spelled different on there. And it wasn't until my grandfather, like his son, where the name got changed. So it's actually not Declue like it's spelled on here. It's just like on government documents. That's how it's spelled. And I don't ever meet that many people with that last name. So interesting. Leonardo da Vinci died in a house called Duclos as well, the enclosure. But okay, guys, we're really going to hop off now. Debbie said New Orleans has her soul. Make sure if you want to book that relationship decode, there are 3 different kinds. There's the personal relationship. There's the relationship algorithms. Actually, I'm going to sit here and read out the descriptions to all of you guys so you know what they entail. Because I know some people need to be walked through it, which I don't mind. Also, you get the free Oracle cookbook on my website if you go and you sign up for the email list. It's not like a cookbook, it's a matrix cookbook. So definitely check that out if you subscribe to my email list to stay in tune with the latest updates. And don't forget, on the website, we have classes as well as decodes as well. So the first one is the personal pairing decode. It focuses on how you bond and pair energetically as an individual. You receive insights on your relational patterns, attachment style, and emotional triggers, strengths, and recurring dynamics across past connections that you've had. The session is to help you understand how you engage in relationships and what you naturally activate with others. It is not about predicting future partners or outcomes. So I want y'all to keep that in mind. The second one is the energetic pairing decode. This one focuses on why a connection exists and what it's meant to activate, mirror, or resolve between 2 people. You receive insight into the energetic roles each person plays, emotional and psychological triggers, recurring patterns, and the core lesson of the pairing. So you're given information. There is like a little questionnaire you'll fill out, and just as much information as you know about it according to the question. If you don't know, just say I don't know, and that's fine, because we're going to be talking in person. And this, again, is not a soulmate confirmation or a future outcome reading. It's explaining meaning and function, encoding, and not permanence. And then the relationship architecture reading. So it focuses on how your relationship functions as a system. You are receiving a structured breakdown of how 2 people operate together, including communication patterns, energetic roles, and polarity, balance, or power alignment. So you can check all those out on my website. The link is in my bio for you guys to visit. And I have enjoyed all of you today so much. Thank you for joining the live. I appreciate it. I hope you guys go play a good love song. Go give someone you know a hug, a kiss. Go tell your grandma, your grandpa, your mom, your dad you love them. If you live alone and you have your cat, go tell your cat you love them. Practice kindness somewhere. Practice love as much as you can, because this is something that cannot be coded. Love cannot be coded. It is a universal force that is ever occurring and can be activated at any time in any person. Someone said, in other words, is a real reading. I'm not pretending to read your future. No, I'm not Miss Cleo. I'm just Taylor DeClue. So thank you guys so much. I will see you soon. And the live stream will be posted on YouTube for anyone who wants to revisit. I'm glad. Let's keep an open heart today, guys, to each other and through this system, no matter what we face. So you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.
Tailored Healing TV by The Oracle, guiding people to the discovery of self.